Hello, welcome to another Easify video, and today I'm pleased to announce the launch of Easify version 5. Now, it's been a long time in the making. We've done an absolute ton of work on it. There's loads of really great new features in this, and I want to show some of them to you today in this video. Now, I want to keep this video as short as possible so that I can get to show you all of the new features. So what I'm going to do is skip through things fairly quickly with this. I'm not going to dwell too much on the details, and then in subsequent videos we'll go into a lot more depth on each individual feature. And if there's anything you particularly want to see, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be happy to make a video about anything you like more detail on. Right, so let's get started. All right, so we've got Easify loaded up with some dummy data so I can show you some of these new features. And the first thing to talk about really is the hero feature of version 5 is bill of materials. So if you're not familiar with it, bill of materials is quite simply the ability to have products that contain other products. So like, think of assemblies or think of a kit. A kit is a thing that contains other things. An assembly is something that is made up of other things. So in terms of software, in terms of bill of materials software, Easify now allows you to take a product and then have that product contain other products. And those products can also contain other products as well, and so on. Let me show you. That's probably the easy way. So we pop up the products window. I'll add a new product and we'll call this new assembly. And you'll notice we've now got an assembly tab on here. If you don't see this in version 5, pop over to Tools, Options, and on Products, there's an Assemblies tab here in Options. Click that, and you can enable assemblies in there. So that basically enables the new bill of materials feature. What you can do is quite simply, if you want to make this assembly into an actual assembly of other products, is you go to the Assembly tab, and then here, one thing you can do is you can just drag and drop products into here. So I can say that this assembly is going to contain a short chassis and a 4cm wheel and a 3cm wheel. And there you go, that's it. So if I click OK and save changes, we'll have a look at our products window down the bottom. So we've got a new assembly, and you can see it's appeared with a little cog on it. And if I open it up, you can see that it now contains these products. As I said, we'll go into a lot more detail on this in another video, but this gives you an idea of how easy it is to create assemblies in Easify. Now we've got an assembly, we're going to want to be able to sell it to somebody and put it on an order. Now, also new in Easify version 5, rather than having to go into the orders and quotes window to raise a new order, you can go straight to the menu here and say add new order. So that's a little bit of a shortcut for you. So we'll add an order, and I'm going to select a customer for it. Fred Blogs, a new order. Let's give it a description. So we'll add a product. I'll go to the product picker, and I think we call it new assembly. So there we go, new assembly, and I'll add that. And you'll notice now that the product has a gear wheel on the order, and there's a plus sign. So if I click on the plus sign on the order, you can see that it then expands, and it shows us all of the items within that main root assembly, the root assembly being the top level assembly. So you can see how easy it is to add an assembly to an order. The bill of materials system in Easify has a fully automatic stock control system built in. So what you'll notice is under the root assembly, you can see we have these sort of status boxes, and we need a quantity of one of this item, and you can see that the actual status of it is one is waiting for parts. That's because we don't have any in stock. We have no free stock, none on hand. So this is waiting for parts. And if we look at the items below, the subcomponents, you can see they're all in a state of purchasing because there is none free of any of those. So we need to purchase those. And we can expand all of the subcomponents. And you can see it looks quite complicated, but this is really quite simple. You can see here that each of the components has a state, so you can see that each component needs to be purchased. Now, what's useful with this is that if we say, let's make this an in progress order, and then we'll OK it, we'll save our changes, you can see that the auto stock control system kicks in, and it basically tells you what needs to happen. So you can see that the root assembly is waiting for parts, and the components within it are all purchasing. So now if we say OK to this and save the order, if we go back to purchases now, you'll see we have an in progress purchase. And then if we open the purchase, you can see that we have the components for our order are listed here. So you can see that these components we need to buy from this supplier have automatically been added to the purchase. So basically the bill of materials system in Easify will automatically raise purchases for all of the components you need in your assemblies. And remember as well, this is a multi-level bill of materials system. So you can have assemblies that contain assemblies. You can have really complex products. and this will do auto stock control for the whole lot, really. All of these items are now on the purchase. If in the purchase, let's say that we say, okay, well, these are all received now. So we'll say the purchase is received. We'll click OK. I won't go into the details. We'll cover that in another video. But we'll just say yes to that. And then we'll go back to our order. And we'll expand it again. And you can see now the status of the items has changed to picking because the items have now come in. Let's expand the top item. And you can see now that this item, because it's been received on a purchase, it's now showing as picking. It's on a shelf somewhere and it's ready to be picked and put into a kit to be assembled. And you'll find that all the other products are the same. So what you can do here, this is a really useful feature. Easify version 5 has a really nice workflow feature that lets you kind of progress the workflow of all of the things that you need to order and keep track of the status of everything on your orders, all of the parts you need to order in. So what we'll do, you notice we've got these arrows here. If I hover over this arrow after picking, you see it's a bit of a complicated arrow because it sort of goes that way and that way at the same time. What it's basically saying is that if we click on this arrow, you see it's turned green. What it's going to do, it's going to move this quantity of the item to the kitted state, and it'll also move it up to its parent to be assembling. Easiest way to show you. So I click on this. If you watch what happens to kitted and assembling, I'll click on here. You see the items move to kitted. Now the parent's still waiting for parts because it's still waiting on these other parts as well. So if I click on these as well, and I'll move the 4 centimeter wheels to kitted, and you can imagine I've gone to the shelf and I've got a bin or a box or a basket or whatever, and I'm putting these components in the basket ready to build the kit to give to someone to build. If I do the final one and watch what happens to waiting to parts up here, and you see the product is now assembling, the status is assembling, and all of these items are kitted. So version 5 gives you this really granular way of controlling the workflow of what you're doing. Not only will it help you to know what you need to order, obviously it'll still generate invoices for your orders, but also it'll help you with the workflow and actually managing sort of what parts are where and what stage project's at. So for example, if a customer called you and said, what's happening with my particular order, you could pop in here and you could say, oh yeah, we're assembling 3 of them, 2 of them are waiting for parts, and 1's waiting to go. So this gives you a really good overview of what's going on. Like I said, we'll cover this in much more detail in a future video. Okay, another nice little feature that we've added, which is just a sort of quality of life update really, is the ability to rearrange the items on an order just by dragging them into a different place. If you used Easify version 4, you could change the sequence of things on an order. Let's say you wanted to have 4 centimeter wheels as the last item on the order. You could click arrows and things to move things. Well, version 5, we made it a lot simpler. So all you need to do on version 5 is to take the item and drag it down to where you want it. And there you go. So drag and drop for changing the order of things on orders and purchases. Something else that a lot of you asked for was a reduction in the number of nag prompts when working with orders. So for example, if you had an order open with version 4, because of the way the allocation system worked, there were quite a lot of round trips back to the server and things. Anyway, aside from all the technical stuff, what it meant was a lot of the time when you went to change something on an order, let's say you wanted to change a status, for example, the system would ask you to apply your changes. You had to keep clicking apply quite a lot as you're working on an order. So we've eliminated a lot of that now. So when you're working on an order, you have to click apply a lot less than you did. So far fewer nags and a much more streamlined experience. Another feature that a lot of you requested was the ability to have a fixed sell price instead of a fixed margin. Let me show you what I mean. If we go to the products window and I open up a random product, and we go to pricing, on version 4, it was such that if you changed the cost price, the margin would be fixed and it would change the sell price. So a lot of you would prefer that if you change the cost price of a product, that the sell price would stay the same and it would change the margin. So you can do that now. Here you see we've got these new little padlocks, and if we hover over it says margins are fixed. Changes to the cost price will alter the product sell price. So if I change the cost price to say 8, you'll see that the sell price has changed. I'll change it back to 5, and you can see that the sell price changes again. Now if I click these padlocks, it'll basically lock the sell price, and if I change the cost price, then it's going to adjust the margin. So that's a nice little feature. Now with that as well, you can set that. Let me just get rid of that. You can set that in options, tools, options, and products, and advanced. There's an option here, default product pricing. Do not change sell price when cost price change. So you can tick that box. You can read all the info, hover over it, gives you more information. tick that box, and then you can set that for sort of the default behavior. So you can set it as default behavior, or you can set it per product as well. Something else that's new is a new formula editor for the paperwork designer. So if we go into the paperwork designer and we pick an item of paperwork, and let's say that we click on a field in the paperwork designer where there's a formula, and you can see that because this button has become colored, the text has gone to red. So we click on the formula, and now we've got an all new formula editor, which has line numbering and syntax highlighting and is just more friendly to use. So a small update, but if you're into programming Easify and you want to really customize your paperwork, then this is a real help for you. Another feature that's really great in Easify version 5 is multi-monitor support. So if I open up an order, for example, and we've got an order, in Easify version 4, everything was sort of constrained within the main Easify windows, what is known as an MDI interface, multiple document interface. The problem is that everything is sort of really constrained to one single monitor. So Easify version 5, we've basically broken it out now so that you can move things off the screen. So you can't see my other monitor. Believe me, it's there. But I can move an order onto another monitor, which I've just done here. And the same with all the other screens. So orders and quotes now, it's no longer constrained within. So you can make it full width. You can make it wider than the screen. And Easify also will remember all the locations of the windows. So when you close an order, when you open it again, it'll open in the same place. And if I resize it, for example, and then I OK it, and then I open it, it'll remember the sizes. So it's just a more quality of life updates, really. The other thing we've done as well is we've introduced high DPI monitor support. So if you're using Easify on, say, a Microsoft Surface, which has a 4K display, or you're using it on a 4K display or a 2K monitor, then Easify will actually scale. So if you have your screen scaling set to, say, 125%, 150%, even 200%, Easify will play nicely and it'll all scale and look nice on multiple monitors. It'll switch too. So if you have a 100% scaled monitor and a 200% scaled monitor side by side, as you move windows from one to the other, it'll do its best to actually switch the DPI on those and, again, just look nice and consistent. And probably the final change is one I can't really show you because Easify now is a 64-bit application. The good news there is if you do intensive things like image editing in Easify, Easify now is 64-bit, which basically means it will use all the available RAM on your machine. Well, not literally all of it, but with version 4 being 32-bit, it could only use 3 gigabytes of memory. Easify version 5 will go beyond that and it will use as much as it needs and it will just run faster and more quickly. Okay, that pretty much wraps up a really quick overview of what's new in Easify version 5. We've got some really great new features in there now. If you want to know more, you can hop over to our website. We've got a news page. If you go to the website, easify.co.uk, under the news menu, hit news, and then you can go to Easify version 5. And here you can see a summary of a lot of the changes that I just spoke about. There's a bit more detail here. Equally, if you go to support and V5 help, Easify Pro V5, and you'll find in the help system, we've got help on all of the new things, all the new features. So you can look at, for example, orders and quotes, working with orders and working with assemblies. And we've got tons and tons of detail here on all the inner workings of assemblies, bill of materials, auto stock control, also purchasing, all those great things. I'll put a link in the description below for that. Again, if you've got any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. If there's any specific videos you want to see, again, let me know and I'll be happy to make any videos that you like. As I said, we will be bringing out a lot of videos in the coming weeks, really drilling into all the details of Easify, auto stock control, bill of materials, and all the other features of Easify that we haven't really been able to talk about so far. So I hope you found that video useful, and until next time, thanks for watching.